So let's go on to the next step, creating grids. Grids should happen after you create your levels. Because after Revit has recognized how many levels you have created, it knows how far to make your grids visible. So on my keyboard, I'm going to type in 3D. 3D. This is the same thing as going up to your quick access toolbar and clicking on 3D. You can see I got my keyboard shortcut placed there. So it's the same thing. And now you can see where we are in our process. We have our levels created, and if on my keyboard, if I hit shift down and I hit my scroll button on my mouse down, you can see how my cursor changes to an orbit. So now I can orbit a little bit and I can see where my CAD files, which are just 2D flat files, live. Now remember that we did a query in the last video where we turned off certain layers of text and tags that only apply to that view, that level 2 view, because you can see here in level 3 they're still visible. Now in our 3D view, we don't necessarily want CAD files on or off. We want to see what this thing looks like, right? So feel free to turn them off. So remember, off, keyword for visibility graphics. So type in VG, and let's go over here to imported categories, right? Something that was external and was brought into our world. Imported categories, and let's just turn off all imported categories. Remember, this 3D view is for visibility. We want to see how this thing is being populated, all right? But now, just like these levels exist in real life, right? In your home, when you walk into your home, you don't have something that tells you this is level 1. It's just innate. You just know this is the first level of your home. If you live in a 2-story house and you go up the stairs, you already know that is level 2. Well, you are communicating with Revit. A grid, if I go to a plan view here in level 1, a grid, which are those red elements, 1 through 7 and A through G, those are invisible elements, datum elements, right? If I go to my structure tab all the way over to grid and level, you see the datum? Those are invisible elements that really exist in real life. They just aren't visible. And how do I know that they exist in real life? Well, if we kind of zoom in, these grids represent something. In the example of grid 1A, it looks like it represents the inside face of the building. Or down at 1C, it looks like it represents the inside corner of the building. Or if we look at grid B, it is going down the middle of this concrete element. You can see there's that hatching there, that pattern, that's concrete, down the middle of stuff. So even in your own home, grids exist. You just can't see them. Same thing with levels. So that's why the order and understanding how grids behave is very important when you're in this world, right? It's understanding Revit's language. So because we have 3 levels over here created, now when we create our grid, we will see those grids in level 3. You are talking to Revit and letting him know, look, this grid 1 through something, I need to see them in all of my levels. Okay, so let's go ahead and create some grids. Let's go to our structure tab. Let's go all the way to the right under our datum panel and click on grid. Now the default for drawing a grid just gives you the good old draw line tool, which you click one place and come over and click somewhere else to place the grid. When I have CAD backgrounds in here, I love to use the pick lines option. What this does is it picks an existing line that is already here for grid placement. So if I hover over grid 1 and I hover over the line, you can see that the whole thing highlights. Now I can click on the grid and you can see that the number 1 has populated here. All right, let me just pull it up a little bit because now we can see the difference between the CAD background and our grids in our Revit file. Okay. Now, Revit does not allow the same grid to be named the same thing. multiple grids to be named the same thing. So it names them in consecutive order. So because the default of this template is set to start at grid 1, the next one I place, remember I'm still in my pick lines tool, and I go to pick lines here, it automatically goes to the next number. So now just go through and click all of your grids. Okay. Now I'm going to place my grid A over here on the left, A. You can see that it made it grid 8. Don't freak out here. Just click on the 8, type in A, and now when you keep going with your pick lines tool, Revit understands what you're trying to do, and it names it to the next consecutive letter. So everything that you do in Revit, all it is, it's a conversation that you're having with the program. Okay? So let's go ahead and click. I already got C. This is just kind of staggered off for clarity. So let me click on D, E, F, and G. Now I'm still active in the grid tool. I have to communicate with Revit and let them know I'm done. So hit escape twice. Look, I hit escape once. You see at the top it still says modify place grid up here. And I've already hit escape once. So get into the habit of hitting escape twice and getting out of that tool. Now if I hit ZE on my keyboard, alright, I got my grids all created, right? Everything's nice and dandy. Now let's go up to level 3, and you can see all of our grids are already there. If I created level 3 after creating my grids, I wouldn't see my grids here because that level didn't exist when I created grids. So Revit didn't know where to put your grids. It puts it at the highest level that you have. So it's just, these are just good habits to get into now while you're doing your model setup, because it will just save you time and headaches later on in the future.